Karachi, and I work with a consulting firm in Lagos as a human resource personnel. Okay, before now, have I ever been caught out with a blind person? Yes, I have, and that will be the beggars on the street, aside Cobams that I know is into music industry, and it was a surprise and a bit shocking the first time I learned I was going to have a visually impaired person as a colleague in my unit. When I got the news, I remember the day I got the news vividly, and I was like, how will she navigate around the building, the office, and everything? What's she going to work with? There were a lot of questions on my mind, and it wasn't just me, same with my colleagues as well. We didn't know, we are certain of what was going to happen. We don't know how she will fit into that environment. And I remember my boss saying, we'll be all right. And she will fit in perfectly well. So, I mean, that was the first, I was like, there were a lot of questions on my mind. And I think, immediately, I think I went online because I didn't want to be caught off guard. Like, okay, so what are the things, how have they been surviving? How did they fit into the workplace and all that? And at the end of the day, I think we had a quick meeting, my team, trying to educate ourselves on how to relate, because that will be the first blind person that will be in my unit, and we prepared a bit. So before the lady joined our unit, we had a brief meeting with the team, and sort of just to know how to relate and all that. And during the meeting, I remember my boss saying something like, this person doesn't want to be treated like an eggshell. She wants to fit in very well, no preferential treatment and all that. Like, seriously, somebody that is blind, I doesn't want the preferential treatment. That was what was in my mind. But the person resumed. She's a lady, of course. She resumed, and it just took us some some orientation, a day or two, just to navigate around, and she was fine. And she sort of exposed me to the daily life of a visually impaired person that tries to navigate Lagos City on our own, having gone to school at Unilag and all that. And it was such a wonderful experience and a good exposure, even though, you probably think that most educated people should know that there's so much more a blind person can do, but a lot of people are not so enlightened about it. So really, I don't think there's so much of a difference between a visually impaired person and someone that is not, except the fact that, okay, one can see and the other can't see. In terms of intelligence, navigating through work and all that, this person could actually do it well. And my fears as regards in the beginning, when I thought, okay, will this person be able to do this and all that, was eventually settled by the time this person was given work to do, and she did it well. And there were a lot of innovations and creativity in the way she handles her work. So it's been a good experience, and we learn every day on the job. There is no doubt about it. There's certain things at times that this person will need support on. So, for instance, my work has to do with trainings, and when this person is expected to probably set up for a training program and all that, where she has to put down some certain materials, sometimes you just need somebody to look at what you've done, and that's it. But in terms of the other job tasks and responsibilities, she could do it with the right tools. So in terms of punctuality at work, this particular visually impaired person that I work with is quite punctual. office resumption is at 8 o'clock, and she resumes way before that time, sometimes quite early. That even surprises me, looking at where she comes from. The office is on the island where she stays at Ago, so that's quite a distance, and she's not mobile. She has to join the public transportation every day, and she still resumes quite on time. Yeah, and I know back then, I mean, let's say like the first month that she resumed, we were quite surprised as she was able to navigate all by herself to work every day, and it was quite interesting. And I think it sort of gave some other people in my team that were not visually impaired to say, wow, if this person can do this, then I can do more. I have both visually impaired person and sighted person reporting to me directly, and this particular lady that is visually impaired, I remember from the get-go, she already said she doesn't want to be treated differently. So that has always been at the back of my mind in the way I deal with her or relate with her. There is no sort of preferential treatment for her at all. Everybody is assigned their task and expected to deliver according to the requirements of the job and all that. So I won't say I give us preferential treatment at all. The reverse is even the case, because I tend to push her to bring out the best in her. Though I try to, sometimes I try to check myself, am I pushing too much? And try to get some feedback from this person to let me know, just to gauge and to ensure that I'm not over pushing this person. But I mean, this is someone that doesn't want to be treated differently, so it would be fair if I have to say, oh, because she's visually impaired, I start giving her less task than somebody that is sighted, because I believe every one of them, either visually impaired or sighted, have almost same potentials. Yeah, they can do much if the opportunity and the right environment with the right tools are given to them. I would say I'm happy to be working with an organization that takes diversity and inclusion very serious. But I think there's so much that can be done in terms of other organizations taking that leap to make their workforce much more inclusive, and allowing people with disability, visual impairment, and other forms of disability, actually including them in their workforce, because I believe that they have so much to offer if only they're given that enabling environment and the right set of tools to work with. For instance, I remember when I told a friend of mine that I have a visually impaired person working with me and reporting to me, and like, does she use Braille to type? Does she use this? Like, no, guy, she doesn't use Braille. She works with a system like my system, because the system I work with is the same thing she works with. The only different thing is that she has a particular software called JAWS that helps her to navigate that system. That's all that is different. We have the same set of tools except JAWS. So that makes you know that they can do much more if only people, organizations, governments can invest and be serious about including them into the work environment. All it takes is just very few things to put in place, and they're good to go. You don't have to hold them by the hand every day they come to work. They navigate around. I mean, being able to work with this person has actually exposed me so much to the potentials of what these people can offer if only they're enabled. Another thing I remember is the fact, or I was a bit concerned then, was, okay, so when this person is coming to work, how will she know the right thing to put on and be official and corporate? But the thing is, that's part of the rehabilitation. especially for those people that were not born blind. Like this person wasn't born blind. She had to go to rehabilitation school and all that. And she dresses well to work. She dresses professional. And I remember there was one day I asked her, how do you pick your clothes when you're coming to work? How do you know what to combine? And she sort of enlightened me about how she feels the color. By feeling, she could know the color that she's putting, she's going to pick in her wardrobe to wear for that day. And she really does her makeup herself, and it looks good, because most of the time I compliment her, and same goes from some other stuff. I'm like, wow, hey, you're looking so nice today and all that. So really, it's not different from even her dressing to work, or appearance is not different from somebody that is sighted. She's always corporate and professional, in line with our organization's dress code. So I would like to thank Opeyemi Adewale for this advocacy she's involved in, and it's trying to enlighten the public about the life of a visually impaired person, either in Lagos or anywhere in Nigeria, and sensitization that she's been doing for a while now. And it's a good one. I commend the work. So I love Point of View with Opeyemi because it's a good advocacy for people living with visual impairments.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Deola. Thank you, Mr. David, and thank you, Aisha, for that wonderful piece you gave to us. Yes, I know I always feel very, very heartbroken when I look into the educational system of persons living with blindness. We have like let me just say 10% of attention given to us. I remember back then in Unilag, when I had to juggle around classes, lecturers don't even want to know whether I'm blind or not. Theirs is just, when I'm giving you the note, you take down the note, and once there's time for test, you must write test, and it's almost the same time they give to sighted person, they allocate to persons living with blindness. And in my head I'm like, why? So but then nobody's business, as the case was then, and we needed to fight it out that way up until I graduated. Even during my master's class, it's always like that. I have to rush down from work and go for classes because it's a part-time program, and they don't even want to know whether, sometimes when I just get there very late, they're like, oh no auntie, you can't get into the class because you're late. So I mean, issues like that, I think there should be special considerations for persons living with blindness when it comes to education. Even equipment, actually very, very important. Equipment that we use in studying, having available or accessible books for us, just to aid our education and all. And also when it comes to employment, please, we have a lot of blind persons who are educated, and look at the private sector, how much of available spaces are employers ready to give into blind persons. I'm very grateful for where I work. Like, a big thank you to them, a big thank you to my manager, like all of my teammates. They are just the best. They asked what I wanted to use in working. They provided all accessible tools for me to work, and I am working. I'm not feeling like they are underusing me, or I'm not being productive. Yes, that's the word. I'm very productive. I'm enjoying what I'm doing presently. My team are the best. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have, kindly like, comment, repost, and subscribe. Please and please and please. Thank you so much for joining with me on this episode. I hope to see you in the next episode. Opeyemi cares.